What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below, the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Ever since the release of Rainbow Six Siege, I think a lot of people have been talking about what the future looks like for this franchise moving forward. And with the more so recent than not the announcement of Rainbow Six Quarantine, where does this leave Rainbow Six Siege, and does this leave it as that Rainbow Six Siege is going to be its own thing for the foreseeable future and we won't see a sequel to Siege? Or does it mean that maybe Siege is coming after Quarantine? Let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Alex Avard of Games Radar, don't expect Rainbow Six Siege 2 anytime soon, but a PS5 and Xbox Series X re-release is almost certain. Easily one of the most successful adherents of the games as a service business model so far, Ubisoft's Rainbow Six Siege, released in 2015 and has been going strong ever since, with regular updates, expansions, and community engagement for the esports focused competitive shooter. With that in mind, Ubisoft doesn't want to pump the brakes on Rainbow Six Siege's success with a potential sequel for the impending PS5 and Xbox Series X consoles, with brand director Alexander Remy recently telling the Daily Star that the developer is viewing next-gen hardware as a high-end PC versus any other PC. We don't want a sequel whatsoever, Remy continued, explaining that the reason behind this is we don't want to segregate our community between the different platforms. In an ideal world tomorrow, we'd love players from every platform to be able to play together. We are approaching next-gen with the same spirit. So here's what's kind of interesting about that. You know, they say that they don't want a sequel whatsoever. They want to kind of keep everyone together and playing together. What's interesting about that, though, is with Rainbow Six Quarantine coming out, that's still going to kind of split the community somewhat, because some people are going to play Rainbow Six Quarantine who also might have already played Siege, and then vice versa, right? There might just be people who play Quarantine for a while and come back over to Siege. So it's kind of interesting that they're talking this way. It kind of reminds me of League of Legends. Riot Games always said that we're never going to make a sequel to League of Legends. At least that's what they've said, is that they won't ever, make a sequel there. It sounds like the same thing here with Rainbow Six Siege. They're not going to make a sequel to Rainbow Six Siege. Maybe they would go back to Rainbow Six Vegas or do something altogether different. But it sounds like they just want to focus on Siege as far as this game as a competitive shooter. Maybe Quarantine's not necessarily going to be that. It's more going to be like for casual gamers and casual players who really enjoy the Rainbow Six series. With that in mind, it's likely we'll see Rainbow Six Siege either ported, released, or remastered for the next generation of consoles, alongside backwards compatibility for the current versions of the game on PS4 and Xbox One, and potential crossplay support across all the different platforms. According to Remy, Ubisoft has been asking, how can we make the player base of Siege today be able to migrate, if they want to migrate that is, but also make this cheaper as much as possible, or through backwards compatibility. The strength of any multiplayer game is the size of its community. So look, guys, I think what it comes down to, I think the real big talking points here and the things that we you need to kind of pay attention to here is that it doesn't sound like they are working on a Rainbow Six Siege 2 at this point. So where is this game at this point? Right now, it's definitely probably not something that is being talked about, really even mentioned much. They're just focused on bringing out new operators and seasons and all of those things, or I should say years of new content for Rainbow Six Siege. And then with Rainbow Six Quarantine, this is hopefully where we're going to see a campaign, a fully fledged out campaign mode. And it looks like there are characters from Rainbow Six Siege in Rainbow Six Quarantine. So I don't know if there's going to be, somewhat or another, there's going to be these two worlds are going to kind of clash or collide or just merge it one way or another in Quarantine. But what I'm hoping for from Quarantine, guys, is what I didn't get in Siege. I didn't get a campaign mode in Siege. It was pretty much just those operator missions that didn't last that long. And obviously, I would like to have a multiplayer with Quarantine, but I think more so than that is a co-op modes where you can take on waves of enemies, or you can play the missions together as a group. I think that would be something really cool, like something totally different from Siege. Not necessarily a continuation of Siege, but something totally on its own. And that's exactly what I think Quarantine is. Now, that being said, would I want to see a Siege 2 at some point? Absolutely. And I would love to see Siege 2 come out, in the next, couple of years, probably on, like I said, it would be nice to be on the PS5 as well as the Xbox Series X. I hope they wouldn't, be only on PC or something. I doubt they would ever do that anyway. But nonetheless, I'd like to see a Siege 2 at some point or another, but it sounds like they just want to continue kind of supporting Rainbow Six Siege, and maybe that's going to be the best thing for them at this point because it doesn't really have a campaign. It's basically just a multiplayer experience, and they just consistently are updating it, and it's become a very popular game, and it's been growing in the esports scene as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see, guys. Once we get our hands on Rainbow Six Quarantine, we'll have a better idea of what the future might look like with Rainbow Six Siege 2, if that would be something that could potentially happen, or like a Vegas 3 or one of these other, of course, sub-series of the overall franchise of Rainbow Six. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Would you want to see a Rainbow Six Siege 2, or do you think they just need to continue supporting Rainbow Six Siege? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more Rainbow Six Siege 2 videos and content, stay here with Zero TV. Halo has always been a really fun experience for me, and I've enjoyed each of them, even though there's been a lot of peaks and valleys with the Halo franchise, similar to pretty much many other franchises out there. I mean, I look at Halo and I look at a franchise that's very successful, but it's also had its flaws, and pretty much like any game out there, there's going to be flaws within there. And what I want to talk about here in this segment of the show is what happened to Halo, because obviously we know where it came from and where it went and now where it's trying to go in the future. And so I want to talk about kind of what happened to Halo and what we might be able to look forward to and what the things that we might be very skeptical about moving forward. So guys, Halo Combat Evolved came out in 2001. It's crazy to think it's been that long since the very first Halo ever came out on the original Xbox, only on Xbox. And then, of course, I remember getting a combo pack where it was Halo 1 and Halo 2. Halo 2 came out in 2004. And so I remember getting that combo pack and just absolutely falling in love with this franchise. Not just being able to play, split screen against my friends or just playing the campaign. It was kind of just everything. The experience as a whole was just incredible. And then in 2007, a few years after Halo 2's release, I do remember that was the most hyped I was about a Halo game, because not only was I thought the campaign the best in the entire franchise at that point, but also, really starting to get into like the multiplayer aspects of the game and such. And that's what kind of brought me, coming back to the franchise. Then a couple of years later, guys, is when things kind of got a little bit weird in Halo. I've always said that the peak was Halo 3, and then from that point onwards, it was like there was like this downhill spiral that kind of happened with the Halo franchise, kind of like almost like identity issues with Halo, not really knowing what it is, what made the series so great. And I'm not even talking about the sprint. I know a lot of people get on the whole sprint thing and didn't like that concept, and I will defend Halo moving in that direction for the rest of time. But in 2009, we had Halo Wars come out, which just was a very strange, even though it was kind of a cool concept, it was very different to have it on a console and not so much on a PC. Then you had Halo 3 ODST come out, which was, in my opinion, I thought Halo 3 ODST was still continue kind of that decline, right? Halo Wars was kind of like its own separate thing, but Halo 3 ODST felt like a significant decline to me. Then Halo Reach came out, and I thought it was a little bit better than, of course, ODST. I put probably the most time out of any of the Halo games I put into Reach because I really liked the rank up system in it, and I also liked Firefight. I liked some of the things that they did in it, but of course we all missed Master Chief without a doubt. Then you had the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, which came out in 2011, and then a year after that you had Halo 4, which people were excited about Halo 4, but when that came out, once again, just didn't really... It kind of didn't hit on all of those, those gears that we were all hoping for. We all wanted, we had a vision in our mind of what we were thinking Halo 4 was going to be. And then, of course, just didn't really hit well with a lot of community fans and just people in general who were really into the Halo franchise. Well, then from there, guys, we had the Master Chief Collection as well as Spartan Assault. And when those came out, they all, obviously not a huge ordeal. I mean, I never really even touched Spartan Assault, Master Chief Collection either. Spartan Strike came out as well as Halo 5 Guardians. And Halo 5 Guardians, I'm not going to say I didn't like Guardians. I thought for the multiplayer experience, I actually liked Guardians quite a bit. The story, though, was just so, I mean, it was pretty much, that was like the biggest downfall plunge of this franchise was with Halo 5 Guardians from a campaign perspective, and a lot of people think that it was just one of the worst, if the worst, Halo game ever made. Shortly after that, you had 2 years later, you had Halo Wars 2 come out, which once again, it had some interesting concepts, interesting ideas, but then, once again, just kind of separate from the main, the core of Halo. And then, of course, now we come a few years later and Halo Infinite's going to be coming out. And we're being promised many things with Halo Infinite. Here's the thing, guys. There's been a lot of games, and I'm just going to talk about the main ones, obviously, okay? So you had the peak of Halo was Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, in my opinion. That was the peak. I believe when Halo Wars came out, it was kind of like, whatever, okay, it's kind of like its own thing. Then you had Halo 3 ODST. I thought that was a decline overall. And Halo Reach, even though that was a side story of Halo and the main story and such, I thought that it was pretty well done. Of course, we missed Master Chief, but I think it's cool to have it exist in the Halo universe, in my opinion. And I thought Firefight was really great. I thought the multiplayer was fun, and the rank-up system was pretty sick. So there's that, right? Halo Reach, I thought, was the best of like the side stories and such. And then, of course, you had Halo 4. So Halo 4 comes out, guys, and look, I'm not going to say it was the worst Halo. It was probably, second worst to Halo 5. But still, coming back, you're playing as Master Chief. And I think people at this point, in my opinion, in the community, they wanted something different. Halo 4 was, people thought that Halo 4 was good, but they wanted to go a different direction. And boy, did they go a different direction in Halo 5, that being not even playing as Master Chief, and kind of just lots of things within this game people did not like. They didn't like that Master Chief was, just like his character development within Halo 5. And so that was kind of like your biggest plunge in the franchise was really with Halo 5, even though I personally didn't think it was absolutely terrible, other than the campaign. But a lot of people say that it was, just absolutely horrible, didn't get as good of reviews, and didn't sell as well, and it pretty much brought Halo to a standstill, ultimately pretty much brought this franchise in a very dark place, and a place of which, I mean, the esports scene completely died with Halo 5, and now with Halo Infinite, there's like a real emphasis on esports, there's an emphasis on pretty much all of these things. I believe, guys, that 343 Industries is going to get it right. And here's why. Halo 5 Guardians was kind of like their first real go-around with the Halo franchise. And obviously, you got a lot of pressure on you. Bungie left. They ended up doing, of course, Destiny and, to kind of do their own thing. And we know with Destiny, it's a pretty big game. It's at this point, it's bigger than Halo. But what I'll say about that is, guys, is that Halo 5, I think 343, that was their first, go around with this franchise, and they tried some different things, and they figured out very quickly that it didn't work as well to the community. Then you've got Halo Infinite. They figured out what they did right, what they did wrong, and what they can do better moving forward in Halo Infinite, and that's why I'm very optimistic that Halo Infinite is actually going to be the true comeback of Halo. I'll give you an example, guys. Another developer that, of course, is under the Microsoft Studios or under the Microsoft brand and Xbox brand is, of course, the Coalition, who does Gears of War. And what ended up happening was, guys, Epic Games, of course, were the ones who made the original Gears of War games. Those first three, and then, of course, Gears of War Judgment came in, and People Can Fly were the ones who made that one. And then ultimately, what happened was, guys, was the beginning for the Coalition started with the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which was kind of like a remaster of the original games, and everyone thought that was really cool. And then, of course, they brought out Gears 4. It was called Gears of War 4, and it was like their first real plunge into Gears. And I think that I feel similar things with Halo 5 Guardians and Gears of War 4. I thought Gears of War 4 was great. I thought it was a pretty good game overall. It wasn't as good as the original games, but I still thought it was good. The same thing with Halo 5. I thought that, yeah, it's not as good as the originals, but it's still good, right? Then you had Gears 5 come out, and I think that that was one of the best Gears games that have been made in recent memory. It's not the best, however, in recent memory, it's definitely up there, and I think that it's not as good as, Gears of War 3. It's not as good as some of, as some of the older Gears of War games, but it's still very well done, semi-open world, very well fleshed out campaign, multiplayer experience, horde experience. They have all these different, ways you can connect with the franchise. Halo Infinite, I feel, is like Gears 5 for the Coalition. It's like their second go-around, true go-around at the franchise, their second crack at it. And I think that Gears 5 sold really well as well, and I think Halo Infinite is going to sell really well for 343 as well as Xbox. And this is their second go-around. I think that we can expect a semi-open world similar to what Gears 5 did, maybe even a full-blown open world. Then you can expect a multiplayer experience that's probably going to be, that I'm thinking is going to be pretty good. And on top of that, a full-fledged, of course, esports scene, which of course Gears of War has as well, and they're putting a lot of emphasis on that. And then even they have firefight and other game modes. I think, guys, that Halo Infinite is going to be something special. They're kind of trying to get back to the core of what made Halo so great. Who knows if they're going to really get to that point. I would love to see the Flood return. There's a lot of things I would love to see return in Halo, and new things as well, because I don't want them to just continue trying to pull on nostalgia and things of that nature. But ultimately, guys, I think Halo and what happened there, it was similar to like Call of Duty. It's similar to Gears of War. You had some amazing years, then you had a downfall at one point or another, and things kind of spiraled out of control, and then slowly but surely, it's trying to go back up, and all it takes is one game, one really good game, to push it all the way out to the masses and really officially become a game that is back, you could say. And I definitely would say like Call of Duty is a great example of a game that is 100% back at this point after, World War II, Black Ops 4, and now Modern Warfare. And then, of course, the future is looking really bright for Call of Duty. I believe that this takes one game. Halo Infinite could be that one game, guys, that takes us to that next level. But let me know what you guys think. In the comment section below, what do you guys think about, what happened to Halo as a whole? The good, the bad, the ugly, the great moments, all of those things. What do you guys think about it? Let me know, like I said. And for more Halo Infinite content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've talked on the channel quite a bit about Gears 6 and the future of the Gears of War franchise, guys. And in this last segment of the show, I want to talk about what we can maybe expect from Gear 6 when that does release at some point, because for those of you who don't know, Rod Ferguson, studio head at the Coalition, who now of course has moved on to Blizzard working on Diablo 4, he had said and confirmed that Gear 6 and Gear 7 as well as the Gears of War movie are all confirmed. Now of course those things can change depending on what happens within the community and things of that nature, but we're going to say at this point that Gear 6 is definitely going to happen, especially because of the success of Gears 5, how well it sold, how it made Xbox Game Pass go to this whole new level. I think we can all be assured that Gear 6 is coming at some point or another. So let's talk about the things that we can maybe expect within this upcoming game. So let's talk about it. In an article that was written by Rob Gordon of Screen Rant, the Gears 5 ending manages to set up the story for Gears of War 6, which should resolve loose ends from the latest installment. The Coalition has pulled out all the stops with Gears 5, making some bold choices when it comes to gameplay. In the campaign, this meant the introduction of open world elements via hub maps to explore and some light RPG mechanics. Beyond the gameplay, Gears 5 also pushes the series forward when it comes to its story. The Gears of War narrative gets some more twists and turns and major plot points and character history alike receive some surprising reveals. And so I think, guys, that we're going to see, there's going to be a lot of things that we're obviously going to see within this upcoming campaign. I think that We can all probably be assured of that. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns, probably a lot more choices that you're going to be needing to make throughout the course of Gear 6. And if that's just kind of, I think that we're most likely going to get that because we started seeing that we've always had to make choices within Gears of War. But I think in Gears 5, we saw that we were making choices, but the choices that we were making were more significant than choosing to go left or right down a path. The death of important characters is nothing new to Gears of War. As such, players have discovered over the years that it's best not to grow too attached to any particular member of the Delta Squad at any given moment. Nonetheless, Gears 5 managed to pull off a pretty shocking moment close to the finale of the campaign. And we all know what happened, guys. How Gears of War 6 addresses this will certainly be interesting to see. With different players choosing their own favorite to save, the Coalition may need to either choose a canonical ending or introduce the carrying over of save data from Gears 5 to its sequel, akin to games like The Walking Dead. Whatever the outcome, ideally there will be a cathartic moment ahead. And I 100% agree with that. I think, like I said, guys, there's going to be a lot more probably choices that you're going to need to make. Now, what's going to be canon from Gears 5? So, Del or JD, and I think, I think that JD is more important to the story. And one thing I didn't like about Gears 5, guys, when it came to the story mode, is I didn't like how they were portraying JD. I've said this on multiple occasions. I love Kate Diaz. I think that we should have continued playing as JD in my personal opinion, even though I think, Kate Diaz has a really interesting story arc. I just don't like how they treated JD in Gears 5. I thought that they made him out to be like a complete douchebag and just kind of, almost kind of acted stupid in many moments in Gears 5. And that kind of bothered me because I really enjoyed playing as JD in Gears of War 4. That's just my personal opinion on it. But obviously, we're going to have a lot of twists and turns, as I said. That said, this wouldn't be the first time that Gears pulled the rug out from under the player. Whether it's Dom's wife or any of the other sucker punch moments that have been a part of Gears lore, it's a series that loves to toy with player emotions. As such, could there be a surprise in store? Gears fans would be forgiven for being a little suspicious of the clean death of Del or JD. After all, their neck is broken and their body is then sucked underground as Kate and the survivor escapes the scene. There's no corpse that remains to be reclaimed, meaning that there's surely some capacity for a return for the deceased party. Of course, this is unlikely to be an easy or happy reunion. More likely, there's the possibility for a swarmed-up version of JD or Del to make an emotional comeback as a boss battle, teasing Kate at all with a difficult fight against an old friend. So, look, I think that in this upcoming game, in Gear 6, personally, I'm not even going to lie, guys. I really think that even though I don't think this is going to happen, what I would love to have happen, I think canon, it makes more sense that JD survives and Del dies. But at the same time, here's the thing, is that they could easily just say that both of them died. Or, whoever you saved in Gears 5 is actually who's still alive in Gears 6. That would be a really interesting concept. I'm not going to lie, though, guys. I would love to go back to playing as JD. Even though I think Kate Diaz is a great character, she's total badass, I would like them to go back to JD or Marcus, give Marcus one last go around. I think that would be really special for the franchise, because I think that we all can feel that something's going to happen to Marcus at some point or another. And obviously we don't want that to happen, but most likely it will at some point. And that being said, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that in the comment section below. Who do you want to play as in Gears 6? Is it going to be Kate Diaz or one of the other characters? Let me know what you guys think. There's undoubtedly going to be one difficult reunion in Gears of War 6. Gears 5 delved into Kate's family lineage, revealing that her grandmother was Queen Mira of the Locust. This family tie means that Kate and her mother, Reyna, also have this attachment, which can be exploited by the Swarm. In Gears 5, Reyna was revealed to be the new avatar for the Swarm Queen, but there's nothing left of her original mind. Now, even though, I think that one of the plot twists that they were kind of they were hinting at, or they were trying to get at, was that Kate was actually going to become the next Swarm Queen. And then, of course, that didn't happen in Gears 5. What I'm wondering is that maybe she turns in Gear 6. And JD and Marcus and the rest of Delta Squad go after her and try to end this thing once and for all. That would be something interesting as well, to see Kate kind of turn, because we don't think that now. We thought maybe in Gears 5 she was going to turn, and it was kind of her story of turning into the next Swarm Queen, but then that didn't happen. So now you're wondering, now everyone doesn't think it's going to happen. I wonder if they're going to kind of do that plot twist on us in Gear 6. Now, even though the coalition of ordered governments has been a focus of stability and structure within the human forces of Gears of War 4, that's not to say that the game series hasn't cast a critical eye over the COG at times. Gears 5 took this to the next level, investigating both why communities have refused to join the COG overall, and also the secrets that the government has tried to hide. The biggest of these that was uncovered was the COG's role in the creation of the Locust threat in the first place. Scientist Niles Sampson was spearheading research into Rustlung in the New Hope research facility as visited previously in Gears of War, but Kate discovered that this research twisted into experimentation on children while resulting in the creation of the first members of the Locust Horde. One thing I think would be really interesting, guys, is if Rustlung came back into Gears 6. What I mean is like they made this like a pandemic, right? Rustling there was like a real problem in certain parts of Sarah or wherever the case might be. There's something going on, that being rustling, and so you're kind of in this like obviously rundown rustic towns. And you know what I loved about Gears 5 was like that semi-open world. Making Gears 6 fully open world would be a game changer, I think, for this franchise. Also, while we're on that, I want to say that with the Locust Horde, I think in Gears of War 4, one thing that drove me nuts about the campaign was the amount of times that we were taking on the robots instead of really the Locust Horde. It started to kind of feel a little bit not as much like Gears of War. Gears 5 moved into a direction where it was kind of half and half, maybe a little bit more Locust Horde than the robots, but they try to kind of balance those things out, and I really liked that concept in Gears 5. By the end of Gears 5, this revelation was kept away from public eyes, with the facility itself apparently destroyed in its entirety. However, a point could be made about this information being revealed to a much wider audience during Gears 6. With such an emphasis on the outsiders in the most recent run of games, does this point towards such untold tales finally coming to light? That's just a sample of what players might expect from Gears of War 6. However, given all the surprises that Gears 5 had over the course of its campaign, fans of the series should perhaps expect the unexpected whenever Gears 6 is set to launch. So, I think, guys, what we can probably all agree to is that we're all excited for Gears 6 and see where this franchise continues. I know there's been, Gears 6 has been at times a very toxic community where people just bash the game for different reasons. If there's one thing that's wrong or whatever the case might be, people just, pile on talking such trash about the Coalition and what they've built, even though I think they're building something really special with Gears of War. Sure, it's got its problems, so do all video games. There's not a single video game out there that doesn't have its problems. And Gears of War is one of those games, guys, that I think has a very passionate fan base, but one that complains about every little thing within the game, and that just it really hurts just the rest of the community and hurts the game as a whole. So with Gears 6, guys, I think that the number of things that I personally want, I want to see Beast Mode return. I love Escape Mode, but I would love to see Beast Mode come back. I think Horde Mode has kind of become a staple of the franchise. You got to keep that going. Multiplayer, obviously, having multiple game modes. I think that they should move into a direction of execution over escalation for the esports scene. And I would say, guys, that as far as the campaign goes, go fully open world. Move, kind of go back to Marcus or move back to JD. Keep Kate Diaz kind of as a side character as she's continuing to maybe turn into the Swarm Queen. And ultimately, guys, one thing that I think would be really cool, though, would be maybe kind of switching between characters within this one in the campaign. I think that would be really awesome as well. With that being said, guys, I think those are all maybe ideas, things that we can maybe expect. Some of them we could maybe expect. Some of them might be just totally unrealistic. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys want in Gears 6? Like, is there any, what complaints might you have about Gears 5, whether that's campaign, the escape mode, the Horde mode, multiplayer, esports? Whatever it is, let me know what your guys' complaints or praises are for this franchise and up to this point, and for Gears 5 in particular, and what you guys want to see better in Gears 6. And for more Gears 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.